Afghanistan, the country that President Obama has chosen to make his foreign policy priority, faces a daunting mountain of challenges, from a thriving opium poppy production to an uncertain election. But today came another reminder of the biggest threat, the increasing ferocity of the Taleban. A suicide bomber managed to kill 23 people, including the deputy head of the country's intelligence agency, as he was leaving a mosque east of Kabul. The brazen assault comes in a climate of political uncertainty. The BBC's Damien Grammaticus now reports from Kabul on this latest setback.
The scene cordoned off, the mangled car is all that remained. Abdullah Laghmani's death is a major blow. The deputy chief of intelligence, he was leading the fight against the Taliban and the drug gangs here. His murder comes just as there seemed to be progress in the drug war. Opium fields cover huge swathes of Helmand province. But this year, the area planted with poppies has fallen dramatically, down a third. In areas where British and Afghan forces are in control, farmers are under pressure to produce legitimate crops, a so-called food zone. And free wheat seed has been handed out by the UK government. It's putting so much effort in because the UK is the largest heroin market in Western Europe. More than 90% of the heroin sold in the UK comes from Afghanistan. 2/3 of it is grown in the fields of Helmand province. So the fall in production is rare good news from Helmand.
British forces are doing a terrific job down there, and I think this is an indicator of just what can be achieved. It's only one, but it is an indicator of what can be achieved when you bring together successful security operations as they've carried out over the last year in the food zone in Helmand, and good governance. And there are many other benefits of that as well as this, but this is a good day for them.
Efforts to eradicate the poppies haven't worked, but market forces have. Farmers have turned to other crops, largely because opium prices collapsed recently.
As long as the price of opium is low and not really that much competitive with wheat, farmers will cultivate wheat. But if for whatever reasons the price of opium keeps going up or returns at the level of the past, then I am afraid that the vulnerable situation will indeed cause a relapse.
So the gains in the drug war are fragile, and Afghanistan is still producing more heroin than the world consumes. Despite the fall in poppy growing, there is still more opium being produced in Helmand than there was 3 years ago, when British forces first arrived there. And the effects are corrosive. The UN says hundreds of millions of dollars a year are flowing into the insurgency. Money that's buying weapons and funding suicide bombers who are taking so many British and Afghan lives. Along with the intelligence chief killed today, 20 more Afghans died. Dozens were injured. The insurgency's spreading. Damien Grammaticus, BBC News, Kabul.
Well, shortly after he filed that report, I spoke to Damien in Kabul about this most recent outbreak of violence and the political turmoil which the country continues to struggle with. So, Damien, another brazen attack today. This doesn't bode well at all, does it?
Matt, it is pretty significant, this. Abdullah Laghmani was a very significant figure in the security and intelligence establishment here. The number 2 officer in the National Intelligence Service, the Internal Intelligence Service. He's been described as a specialist in Al-Qaeda, in the insurgent networks that plague this country, and he's also was a close ally, apparently, of President Karzai too, and an ethnic Pashtun. So this is a very significant target, and also a man who was taken out in his hometown. He was there visiting a mosque. He was surrounded by his own people, and the Taliban called us here in Kabul today to say they carried out this attack. They claim that they had been hunting him for some time, and today they said they got their man.
And then you take into account the fact that there are still further allegations of electoral fraud against the Karzai camp in this case. You've got the American military saying that the Taliban are getting far more deadly in their tactics against them. You've got the ongoing confusion about the election result. And amidst all that, you have President Obama saying, I'm going to send thousands of extra troops to Afghanistan. I mean, all this could become a huge problem for him, couldn't it?
Well, it could do very much, Matt, and I think that this is going to be a huge sort of political question for him, if you like. It's pretty clear, I think, from what the commanders on the ground here are now saying is that they want this revised strategy, they want a change of approach, and what that means They haven't spelt it out yet, but it's almost certain, I think, to come, is likely to be more troops. But certainly, against this backdrop of the situation with the election results still unclear, all of the allegations of fraud to be looked into, there's a very uncertain moment here in Afghanistan, a political process that nobody knows quite how it's going to unravel, and the whole military process of the review too, which still also has to be resolved by President Obama, looking at eventually whether that will require more troops.
Pretty grim picture there. Damon Grammaticus in Kabul for us. Thanks very much indeed. Across the border in Pakistan, a government minister was also wounded in a drive-by shooting today. Hamid Saeed Kazmi, the country's religious affairs minister, was shot and wounded while leaving his office in Islamabad. 2 gunmen approached his car, firing into the front and the side. Mr. Kazmi is being treated in hospital while his driver was killed in the attack.